Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder as I drop my kid off at school and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good morning, listeners. I hope that you're having a wonderful day and had a nice weekend. It's Monday, February 12th, I think, and I am coming to you from suburban Chicago. The weather is pretty nice. It's about what you'd expect for February. It's chilly, but not outrageously cold. It's in the low 30s, I think, or high 20s. So I've had a bunch of questions show up in the guild, a couple that are going to take a bit of consideration and planning, and or I have enough to say that I think I want to do whole episodes, so I'm filing those away. There's some that I'm not sure how to answer or that I don't want to, in which case I might just not answer them. But there are a bunch that I think I can tackle today, and I thought that's what I would do. Before I jump in too hard, not much gaming this last week. Due to a combination of circumstances, I got hardly any gaming played at my house, although I guess I did. Actually, now that I think of it, I played Tides of Time last Monday. I played on Tuesday. I got to play Architects of the West Kingdom, which was very interesting. I mentioned that. And I got to play a brief game of Wingspan. Let's see, Wednesday. No gaming on Wednesday. Thursday, I got to play Small World. And Friday, I played a game that we are working on that I'm really excited about. More news about that in a couple months, I think. And this weekend, I didn't get to play any games because I was running a swim meet. I ran a swim meet, 1 session Friday, 3 sessions Saturday, 3 sessions Sunday. It was a grueling experience, very interesting. Some lessons learned because it was the first meet I'd run. Some mistakes made, but nothing egregious. I got to talk to a couple of angry coaches. I got to kick some swimmers out of a meet, which sucked. But I also got to watch a lot of kids get good swims. I got to run a bunch of interesting meets, work with a bunch of cool people. So overall, it was a really interesting and rewarding experience, and I will be doing it again and again and again because my daughter is in 7th grade, and I'll have to be helping with swim meets up until she's much older. So looks like something I'll be doing for a while. So that said, on to gaming questions. So I have a couple questions here. I'm going to save some of the other ones that have come in, but Doug Klipfel over on the Pick Up and Guild forum on BoardGameGeek. That's Guild Pick Up and Deliver Guild in the BoardGameGeek forums. Guild 3269 delivered a number of questions for me that I thought I would share. Oh, one more bit of news. If you haven't gone over and listened to the Forgot My Dice podcast yet, over there I appeared in the last episode talking about zombie games and lots of other stuff. So pop over there if you have 3 hours to listen. You could listen to 9 episodes of my show, or that one, I guess. It's not full 3 hours, but it's a more long-winded show, and it's longer when they have a guest on, and I did not shorten it. So, okay, on to the questions. So Douglas asked 3 questions that I'm going to answer today. Now, and some others I'm thinking about. His first question: now that you have a full collection of board games, how do you decide a game is worth? How do you decide a game's worth and add it to the shelf? Is worth buying and to add to the shelf? I'm sorry, I'm reading while I'm walking, and I just realized my phone was cutting off the question. So basically, he's asking, how do I decide to add a new game now that my collection's full? I guess the first one is that I don't take the fullness of my collection completely into question. I'm trying to get to a one game in, one game out model, but I'm really not doing very well at that. So at this point, certainly it's a consideration, but I'm not yet completely withholding buying games because, I don't have room for that game. I probably should at this point, but I haven't. It is becoming a thing, though, that I am much more considered about whether I should buy a game. And I think there are several questions I'll ask. One is, when will this get played? So as I'm thinking about a game, the first question I ask myself is, when will this get played? And corollary to that, who am I going to play this with? I'm far more likely to buy a game now if I think I'm going to be able to play it with my family. Because while I do go to my game night once a week, and that's where I get a lot of my heavier games played, really I get one game a week played there, maybe two. So it's my family that I play most of my games with. So if I buy a game they're not going to play, that is a game I'm not going to play much, inherently. Whereas if I buy a game they're going to like, or a game that has a solo mode I'm discovering, it's much more likely I'll get some plays of it. Wingspan, I've already got 6 or 7 plays this year in a month and a half because my family likes it. So it's easy to get out. So that's a big consideration for me. When will it get played? As a secondary part of that, if it's not going to be with my family, then I have to think real hard about when am I going to play this and how does it fare compared to the other games that are already in the I have to play it away from my family category. For example, this game that's all the rage right now is Vindication. This is a game that went through one round of Kickstarter, and I remember looking at it the first time and thinking it looked pretty neat, but didn't have room in my collection, or it didn't thrill me enough to get it. Now that it's out, a lot of board game reviewers are kind of going crazy, or as Jamie Kagi of the Secret Cabal would say, going bananas for this game. And it's an adventure-focused Euro game. And that's kind of the idea. It's a Euro game with an adventurer theme. So, part of me is really tempted. There's a Kickstarter right now. I wouldn't want to get it unless I got the expansion too, which means I'm looking at $100, which is a fairly steep purchase price at this point for me, given the games I've already bought this year and how many games I have coming in and that sort of thing. So at this point, I'm leaning toward no, although I may change my mind. Maybe next week I'll be saying, I decided to back it. But the big thing for me is I don't know when it would get played. If I have time to get out an adventure game to play, one, I don't know that my wife is going to be all that interested in a Euro-focused adventure game. She doesn't really like resource management stuff. Two, we've got Gloomhaven, and I love Gloomhaven. If we have time to play an adventure game, I want to play Gloomhaven. So, and I did pre-order the Gloomhaven expansion, which means I have more of that coming. So, that's an element where I think a game like that, and I'm finding more and more, when will this get played, and what makes me think it's going to be better than something I already have, is a big factor. Who will I play it with is a big factor. And then I guess the final corollary there is, does this game fit a niche I already have? And if so, why am I getting it rather than playing the game I have? By way of example, I like the idea of Letters from Whitechapel. It sounds neat. And then they have that new one, a Whitechapel Adventure, or Whitechapel Mystery, something like that. It's a shorter version of Letters from Whitechapel. Both of these are hidden movement games. Well, I have, for the longer version, Fury of Dracula. And the shorter version, I have Scotland Yard. Then I've even got Nuns on the Run, which is a hidden movement game where all the players except one are hidden, and the one player who's not hidden is looking for them. So, these are several games that I have in my collection that already do that. So when I'm looking at, say, Letters from Whitechapel, or the new one, I forget what it's called, then I say, why would I get that game when I already have these others that I don't play as much as I could or haven't gotten time for? So I guess those are the three considerations. First, when would this get played? Second, if it's not with my family, how often is this going to get played, and how does it fit in the collection of games I already have? Third, what game would this replace, or what games does it already connect with? I guess fourth is price and size. So I'm more likely to spring for a game that's going to come in a small box than a big box these days. For one, price, it's easier to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to spend $20. Like the one game I'm backing right now, I was backing a game called Newspeak, which looked pretty good, but ultimately I decided it wasn't good enough for the $32 whatever. And then like a week later, there's a new game from Wolfgang Warsch and the people who made Monikers that looks really like a really fun party game and really different than anything else I've seen before. So now I'm backing that for $30. So turns out I'm changeable like the wind. Wolfgang Warsch is the guy who made The Mind and The Game, as well as Quacks of Quedlinburg. He's got a new one, The Taverns of Tululavad or something. I don't know. So that's the kind of approach I take to I have a full collection. How do I make it a more full collection? The big thing I really need to be doing now is more actively getting rid of games, which I'm just not doing enough. So that's kind of the spot I'm in now. The next question that Douglas asked, which I will approach here, is, do you have an alpha gamer in your life? If so, how have you handled it? I have two stories about alpha gamers. One, hasn't been a huge problem for me. I'm not sure why. Maybe the people I play co-ops with are people I don't mind chatting with about games. Like when we play, like I mentioned, we play Pandemic, the Pandemic Legacy game. I don't think what I've shared or I've talked about much is the fact that we play at 5-player. Well, wait a second, Brendan. Pandemic only plays 4 players. What the heck? Well, the way our group does it, my daughter, my wife, and our 2 friends that we play with each take a character, and then I'm the administrator, and I flip through the books and hand out the sticker cards to pull stickers off, and I make sure that we remember to pull the what am I thinking? The legacy deck when we need to. I try to keep track of all the various rules, and then we all discuss our strategy. So it's a shared experience of the story. We're all playing together, but I just don't move one of the pieces or have a hand of cards. So clearly, if that was a game where that group had an alpha player problem, that would be an issue. The 2 times I have had an alpha player issue that I wanted to share. One was it was interesting. So we were playing Stuffed Fables, my son, my wife, and I. And it was my wife's turn, and she rolled her dice, and my son goes, well, you should do this and this and this. And she just told her what she should do. And I said, son, I didn't say son, I used his name. I said, son, when you're playing a co-op game, people like to take their own turn. They don't like to be told what to do. So you got to let mom decide for herself what she wants to do. It's like, okay. And then, about a half hour later, we're playing, or 20 minutes later, and it's his turn. And, it's a co-op, and we're trying to do something. And he says he's going to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, Finn, I'm really hurting over here. Could you come and help me out? He's like, you said we're not supposed to tell each other what to do. So that it was interesting to try to explain the difference between asking for help or making suggestions and straight out saying, you have to do this, 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 or you should do this, this, this. But ultimately I said, well, I don't see them as the same thing. It seemed to me like you were telling mom what to do with her turn, and I was asking you to reconsider what you're doing with your turn. But I understand your point, and yes, it's your turn. You could do what you like. And so he did that other thing, and my character got knocked out, and blah, blah, blah. 10-year-olds, right? But it was interesting to think about how do you understand an alpha player that way. The other story is interesting. When I was running the Pandemic Survival event, we had one guy who was watching one of the games, and he started talking to the players, and I couldn't hear what he was saying, so I asked the judge who was in charge of that table just to make sure that he wasn't giving advice. And in fact, he was trying to offer advice, and they didn't really want it. They weren't accepting it really, but we had to kind of shoo him away and say, look, dude, this is a tournament. You can't offer advice to people. Plus, it's their game. They want to figure it out themselves. So, I guess if I were playing in a game, let's say I'm playing at Toggle with somebody I don't know very well, and they start alpha gaming, I would just say, I appreciate your advice, but I'd like to decide for myself what to do. Or we could talk about it, but ultimately it's my turn, so back off. I say that now. I haven't had to deal with it much. If there were an alpha gamer I found annoying, I probably would just tough it out for that game and then not play with them again, or avoid playing co-ops with them. I generally like to find situations where I know I'm going to have fun playing with the people I'm playing with. So if I had somebody that was kind of a bossy player in a co-op, I probably wouldn't want to play a co-op with them. I'm not sure that really works or that solves the problem, but that's my experience with alpha gamers thus far. So the last thing I wanted to answer, there were 3 of Douglas's 6 questions that I wanted to address today, was the question of my favorite solo games. So I guess it's a 2-part, because most of the time that I've played solo games in the past has been when I'm have some downtime. Like the big one is my son's in a sort of gymnastics class, and so I have about an hour and a half, about an hour and 15 minutes to myself just sitting there. Or when my daughter used to have swim practice, I would have about an hour and a half. This is when we lived further away from the pool. I'd have an hour and a half to myself. So in those situations, I find portable solo games are really fun. The 3 that I would say are my most favorite would be Friday, the Freedom and Freeze game, about being the helper to Robinson Crusoe. That one is really good. Onirim by, I can't remember. Torgi, something like that is the last name. I'll have to look it up. You can find a link in the show notes. And Space Hulk Death Angel, which is it's a really random game where you're rolling dice and trying to figure out how to help your Space Marines survive, and they almost never do. So that one's fun too. Those are my 3 favorite games to play by myself. I also really enjoy Castellion and Lost Expedition. Those are games that work really well in the solo mode also. And these are all small box games that are very portable. I've been really enjoying the solo Cerebria experience. The game Cerebria is really fun in the solo mode, and I am enjoying playing it that way. But I don't know that I have all that much solo game experience, so I'm looking forward to having that grow as the year goes on. I imagine I'm going to do some more of that. So I'm curious, what are your answers to those 3 questions? How do you decide which games to add to your collection once your collection is full? How do you deal with the alpha gamer problem? And what are your favorite solo games? Answer any of those questions, or add questions of your own, or come join the conversation at BoardGameGeek Guild 3269, or you can go to rattleboxgames.com and look for the pick up and deliver posts, which will include a link to that guild. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I'm home now, so I need to get to work, but until next time, I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.